Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to try something a little different today, so hopefully you'll indulge me. I have these two Waterman's 52B and a half. These are probably from about the 20s or 30s. And so I'm going to try to restore this one today. I already restored this one, but I have a feeling that this one is going to be a little bit more of a challenge because of the nib. This one, all I did was, twist this off, which came off pretty easily. Both of these come off pretty easily, and installed the new sack, and cleaned it out. No water on these. These are really sensitive to water, so the only time I used water was to see how it flowed through the feed, and luckily for this one, the water flowed right through, so there was really no gunk or anything in the nib or the feed, so I didn't have to knock out the nib or anything. But for this one, it wasn't flowing, the water wasn't flowing, so I had to knock out the nib and clean it out. So I just used some semi-chrome polish in here to clean it out since I didn't use water, and I used a dental pick, which is right here, to clean out all the sack remnants, which just kind of flaked up and hardened up over time. But this one, it works well, so I'm hoping that I have just as good luck with this one as I did with this one. I'm having a feeling I'm not, because I didn't do this on camera. So the camera always makes things a little bit more difficult. But I'm going to give this a try, and hopefully you'll find this interesting, watching me fumble through this. This was the first pen I ever restored. And I'll show you how it writes a little later. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the sack remnants here. I already was able to see how easily this nib came off, and it came off really easily. So just twist it off, and you can see how the sack is dried up and hardened there. So there's some remnants here of the sack. So there's going to be a lot more than that, I'm assuming. So I'm going to use this dental pick. I watch, I think Steph from the UK and a couple others, Chris Rapp. They have a couple really good videos on restoration. So I'm copying a little bit of their techniques. I'm going to try this dental pick and get out the rest of the gunk. These dental picks work really good, and there should be a pressure bar inside of here, I'm hoping. If there's not, then that's a whole nother issue. So yeah, I think there's the pressure bar in there. I don't know if you can see down in there. Let's see, probably can't. There's a pressure bar in there. I don't feel too much of any sack. Maybe someone tried to restore this before, but I'm not feeling any crunchies, any crunchy bits of the sack. So maybe that someone already started it. You have to be careful around here that you don't hit the pressure bar. Yeah, I'm not really feeling any more than a lot of sack remnants came out of this one. But this one seems pretty clean. Just want to scrape around the sides gently, avoiding the pressure bar. But there's really, I'm not really seeing anything in here. It's pretty clean. I don't know if my loop will work. The loop doesn't really provide enough light. but it's looking pretty clean. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to go ahead and just assume that someone had attempted to start this before me, and that may be one reason why it was so easy to separate. So I'm just going to take some semi-chrome polish and I'm going to clean through here a little bit. See if there's anything else that comes out. Just keep cleaning until the Q-tip comes back clean. It'd be so much easier to just run some water through this, but I don't want to. With these vintage pens, I really want to be careful, so. Just try to get as clean as I can. So I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a pretty hot week or so here in Maryland. Not too bad, but in the upper 90s. Today it's about 92. I think it's going to be 95 tomorrow, probably about 90 something on Wednesday, and then it's supposed to cool down a bit. So I'm gonna do this a few more times until it comes clean. I'm gonna pause the video not to bore you, and I'm gonna come back once this is all clean. So here's where we are. This is probably about as clean as I'm gonna get it. I really don't want to fiddle too much around the pressure bar because I have no idea how to repair the pressure bar. So this is kind of what the Q-tip is looking like right now, which is pretty good. So this is where we started. So I'm going to leave that alone. I think it's looking pretty good. There's nothing in there really. I'm going to do the same thing for the cap. Little semi-chrome polish in here. See what we have in here. Oh, that's even worse. It's all a bunch of ink. So I'll probably do this off camera too. Yeah, it's loaded. I may run a little bit water in here really quickly and just dry it out real quick. So hold on one second, I'll be right back. So here's where my microphone dies. So right now I'm doing a voiceover. I ran some water through this really quickly and dried it out. And so you see the ink is pretty much gone. So I'm running some semi-chrome through it a little bit just to clean it up, but I think I'll have to continue this, at my leisure because there's a lot of ink in here, so I can just sit back and do this whenever. There's really no rush. You can take the cap off anytime. So right now I'm just putting a little semi-chrome polish on the gold band there, and I also put some on the lever bar there. Don't really want to use too much chemicals on these. So the cleaning so far is going pretty well. So I'm not going to leave the semi-chrome on too long. I'm just going to wipe it off with a soft cloth there. And I'll do the same for the lever bar. You can see how dirty the Q-tips are. There's a lot of ink and a lot of gunk in these pens that have been sitting around for who knows how long. But so far the restoration is going pretty well. Nothing's unexpected has happened so far. So right now you see I am checking out the remnants of the sack that's around the section, cleaning up my area a little bit. So I have to be organized, otherwise I lose my focus. So yeah, there's some hard bits of the sack still glued on there. So I'm gonna use my ghetto method here to knock the feet out. And I really didn't want to do this. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to do this. I was really scared to. Last thing I want to do was to crack this. But I'm going to use this drill bit and the holder for the drill bit, and I'm going to hammer it out slowly because I don't want the feed to fall through those holes. If it falls through, I'm not sure how I would get it out. I would have to break my drill bit holder there in order to get the nib out and the feed. So I'm just going to hammer it a little by little. So I'm going to do this kind of slowly. So when I'm hammering, I can actually feel it move. So I'm going to hammer it, and then I'm going to check it, hammer it and check it really gently, because I really don't know how fragile. So right there I'm checking to see if I can pull it out, because the little I want to do as little hammering as possible. So I'm just going to continue to check, hammer and check. So that's what I'm doing here. They do actually have professional blocks. Some people make their own homemade blocks, but as you'll see, this actually works out in the end for me, luckily. So it's starting to move there. You can actually see some of the black from the ink that's coated on the nib there. So I'm trying to twist it so I can stop hammering. Doing whatever I can to avoid having the nib fall. Still twisting. I think it's just going to take a couple more before I can feel it move. I was lucky. The ink is really dried up, so that didn't help the process. I'm just trying to be really anal, really careful. So there it is. This is the feed. It's just covered in ink, dried up ink. It's black, and actually when I go to wash it off, it's kind of a dark brown feed actually. So I'm just showing you there how much ink is on the feed. And there's the nib. So it's really dried up. So I'm gonna take this to the kitchen, and I'm gonna wash it off, and then I'm gonna come back and polish it up with some semi-chrome. So off to the kitchen. So I'm back. I used a toothbrush that I have in my little toolkit, and a little soap and water, and I also used a little sink drainer thing that I have there from Anderson Pen. So you see the color of the feed there. It's kind of a dark brown, and it's still a little stained, but a lot better than it was. There's no crusty ink on it, but it's looking pretty good so far. So I'm gonna, and that's the sink strainer, so you don't, so your small bits, your nib and feed don't fall in the down your drain. So I used that. So I got that and a lot of my other supplies from Anderson Pens. There's their shellac that I use. I also have their sacks and their talcum powder that I use for this restore. So now I'm gonna polish up the nib, get some of the crust off the ink. And the nib is in pretty good shape. No issues with it. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. So yeah, you can see that it's shining up pretty nicely. Very nice. Yeah, very good condition for its age. Like I said, these pens are from the 1920s. I think they were first in production in 1919 by Waterman's. So I need to do a better job of staying in frame. I always struggle with that. And so I'm just going to put a little semi-chrome polish on the feet as well to make sure it's all clean. But the water really did the trick for this. So I'm not going to keep the polish on too long. Right there I am cleaning out the section because that's gunky as well. Apologies for being off screen there. I'm just using semi-chrome polish again, and you can see the sack is crusted up on there. That's what I'm pointing at. So I'm just getting the rest of the gunk out of that section. It's cleaning up really easily. And now I'm taking the dental pick to scrape off the crusty old sack there. And this comes off pretty easily. You just kind of scrape it off gently. Take your time. And just kind of, it flakes off. And once you get the first piece off, the rest of it will just flow off pretty easily. The only thing about these pens is that they were so small. It's kind of awkward. Very tiny pen. Again, I'm off camera. All I'm doing here is just scraping the sack off. You can see it's almost pretty much off already. The good thing about it is once it dries up like that, it's just it wants to be gone. So it just comes off really easily. And fortunately, the dental pick doesn't scrape off any of the section. It just all it takes off is that dried up sack. I'm just scraping. So I'm off camera checking, make sure it's all clean. Now I'm just gonna get a little piece of fine grit sandpaper and clean out any shellac that may be left behind. But the dental pick pretty much did the job. I think there's a little bit of sack left. So I'm gonna go back to the scraper and scrape it off a little bit more. So that's what I'm doing here. There's just a little bit left. So that's looking pretty good. And so now it's almost time to install the sack. I'm gonna wipe those off with my towel. Clean them up, make sure there's no dried ink left. I'm taking the scraper and making sure there's no, not the scraper, the dental pick, and make sure there's no dried ink in the channels, and there isn't. But while I have it out, I might as well run it through. So that's all I'm doing there. And it's clean. The water, like I said, the water did the trick for that. So right now I'm wiping off the feed with the cloth. Not the feed, the nib. It's shining up pretty nicely. It's looking brand new. So now I need to figure out the placement of the feed and the nib and get it back in the section. Right now I'm comparing it to see how the other one looks. So I'm just gonna push it in. And unlike the nibs that you have today, some of the nibs that you have today have flat ends that only allow you to put your nib in a certain way, but it's not the case for this. You can pretty much put them in anyway. So I'm just comparing. I know that it's not quite in far enough, but I can't seem to push it any further. So I'm just looking to see where the feed is, and I know that's not right. It's way too far out. So I'm comparing the two. So I'm going to do this a few times and fiddle with it. I'm still trying to see where the feed should be. And still trying to push it in farther. So now I'm trying to get ready to get the sack installed. And these are number 13 sacks from Anderson Pens again. I'm still fiddling because I know that's not right, but I'm losing my patience and I want to press ahead anyway. So instead of making sure that that's right, I'm gonna go ahead and press ahead. But luckily, I make a newbie mistake. I forget my scissors, so I have to stop. So off camera, I'm actually gonna fix that nib and feed. So it's at this point I'm kind of realizing, or I'm going to realize, that I don't have any scissors on hand. And at this point, I go to the kitchen to get some scissors. So I don't know if you noticed that I actually got the feed and nib in there right. So, and right here, all I'm doing is measuring, because you want to make sure that there's a little space at the for the sack to breathe or whatever. So right now I'm just deciding where to cut the end. So you want to make sure that your cut is as even as you can make it. You want the sack to be on the section perfectly. So there, it's still a little bit long, so I'm just gonna cut a little bit more off. Then I'm going to have to put some more shellac on it, because looks like that shellac is dried already. You don't really need a lot of shellac on it. So that's about right. Maybe it could have been a little bit longer, but it'll do. So I'm going to put some more shellac on that. And then use the forceps to spread the sack. And this is a kind of an awkward part right here, is to get that spread, and then you're gonna stick that in there. And I have to switch hands because I'm not quite using the right hands at that time. I wanted to do that with my left hand, so I'm going to switch hands in a second, because it's not going for me. So there I am, switching hands. In the process, the shellac is drying. So just want to spread it enough so you can get one of the ends in there, and then just pop the forceps over the back. Once you get part of it on, you can just do the rest with your hands. So I'm just going to slide it on and make sure it's even on the section there. So that's all I'm doing there, is just making sure it's not lopsided or anything. And I actually inked this up at the end of the video. I probably should have let it dry like overnight before I inked it up, but it'll be fine. I just wanted you guys to see how I wrote. I'm actually giving away that it was successful, huh? But yeah, the restoration worked out okay. So I'm putting some talc on. This kind of keeps the sack dry, keeps crud out. Keeps it from growing stuff. So I'm just putting a nice coating on that. Again, that's from Anderson Pens. I'm going to put section. I'm not going to put any shellac on the section or anything. It doesn't really need it. So I'm just going to line up the nib and the lever there. So there it is. So hopefully, well, it does work. I already gave it away, but it does work. So now I'm going to put some Renaissance wax on it, just a little bit to shine it up. I'm showing that I couldn't get any of the oxidation off that one. This is actually a brown color now from age, but there's nothing that I had on hand to get it back to black. So, but I'm fine with that color. So I just put a little Renaissance wax on it just to shine it up. Both of these pens are in pretty good condition. No scratches on them really. So there I am off camera again. All I'm doing is putting some Renaissance wax on it. These pens have probably been sitting around in drawers. You think from 1920, 100 years, right? That they are in such good shape. And there I'm showing you that there really aren't any scratches or anything on them. So I'm just buffing it up. Getting ready to ink it up. They're looking pretty good. Look at that shine. Just make sure everything's lined up. It's looking good. So now I realized I left my ink upstairs. So I went upstairs and got my ink. And right here I'm just showing you how I realized that I needed new sacks. And so all I did was, when I first got the pens, is I pulled on their levers. And if they need a new sack, you can hear the crunching of the old sack. The sack will be dried. And sometimes you'll feel resistance. So it's flowing really, it's moving really smoothly here. But like I said, if your sack is old and crumbly, you can definitely hear it crunch, crunch. But that one's it's moving nicely. So now I'm gonna get ready to ink it up. I have some Diamond Oxblood here. I don't want to use any aggressive inks, meaning, you know, any ink that sheens or is thick. So I just use a regular Diamond. So So I'm just going to stick it in the bottle and release the lever or feel lever a few times to make sure I get some ink in there. And it won't hold too much. You saw how small the sack was, so it won't hold too much ink. Such a small pen. So I'm just cleaning up the nib. Put the ink aside, and now we're going to do a writing sample. So the pen is a Waterman's. This is a 52 and a half B. It's Waterman's Ideal 52 half B. There's also the 52, which is quite a bit longer and a little thicker than this one, and quite a bit more expensive as well. And the ink is Diamond Oxblood. This is a nice color ink, dark red. And here I'm just showing you the flex. Has nice flex to it. This is probably a fine point, I'm thinking. Just write okay in reverse. Not great, but okay. Very nice for 100 years old. So, and this is the red ripple, and you see that has the heart-shaped breather hole. So that's what I'm showing you there. See how nice and shiny the nib is. And that's the lever, nice and shiny as well. I'm just showing you the inscription there. It says Waterman's Patent something fountain pen. And same thing there. Waterman's Patent fountain pen, and it repeats the same thing there. And this is a probably a medium nib here, I'm thinking. And it's a Waterman's Ideal 52 and a half B. Both of these nibs are nice and flexy, very spongy. Here I'm trying to figure out what ink I used. I'm thinking it's Diamond, but it's not. It's actually Diplomat black sepia black. It's not Diamond. So you see the nice flex there as well. That's it. They're all nice and restored. So happy I didn't break anything, so I can enjoy these pens. I really do like Waterman's. Waterman's are probably my favorite vintage fountain pen. And right here I'm just describing that these were ladies' pens back in the day. So the ladies would put these around their necks. I guess they were good for nurses or whatever to have around their necks. And yeah, there's no roll stop or anything, so they do like to roll. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope this was informative. As always, thanks for your comments. Take care.